All right, we're back, and it's COMP213, and it's week 11, lesson 11, part 3. And what we're talking about today, over these couple parts, part 3 and part 4 most likely, we're talking about our project, our final project for this semester that you're going to be getting today. Now, if I look at the project, there are a couple places I have it. I'm going to just bring it up for myself just in a second. I'm just going to bring it up like this. This is what it's going to look like. You can get this document if you look at the faculty website, right, that we have up under schedule. You'll see that I've added a couple of things here. One of the things is this final project document on the right. Okay, so we talked about a couple things so far this week. One of them is this web project lifecycle, which we talked about last day. We talked about different phases of the project. I will be giving you a detailed document around that sometime next week, if I can. Today we're also going to be talking about web fonts and icons, like as mentioned. And we talked about more web form controls last day as well when we did our email form, right? So we did a couple things here. So let's take a look. If you go to Final Project, you can actually download the Final Project PDF document, right? You can also find it for those of you who are savvy. If you go to your MyCentennial and you log in to your course, right, and you go to, let's just select this course. This should be, is this section 1 today? Or is this, what section is this today? But your section. You know what your section is? You don't even know your section? Well, let's assume that it's section 1, right? Section 2, thank you. That's what I was asking for. So let's say you're section 2. If you go to Dropbox under your section 2, web interface design, then you'll notice that there's another one called Final Project. So you can see it there as well. And this is the Dropbox that I want you to submit your files. Remember, in order for you to submit assignment 4, which is, by the way, due, what is it, tonight at midnight, right? I want you to do two things. One, I want you to run your final project on your site files, right? But the other thing is I actually want you to submit your files on in Dropbox so that I can have the link to your new files, right? A link to your site. Because remember, I don't have the link to your site because of your your project is coming from Professor Filati, right? So she has all your links. I don't have them. So I need your link to your site. What is it going to be? Some kind of document that gives me that information, even if it's a little comment that says, hey, here's my link, right? And then your site files. I want to see them here inside Dropbox so you can get full marks, right? Again, it's due by midnight tonight. Your final project's got the same kind of format. It's due on the 14th of August at midnight. That's the last day of semester, right, for us. And that's when there's no extensions on that one. That'll be due that day. And the reason why is because the last day, right? That's also probably the last day we're going to have classes because we're going to have our exam during that time, right? Our final test. So a couple ways you can get the information. If you go to your final project here on Dropbox, I've also included it, sorry, let's go back here. I've also included it, if I go to Edit Folder, inside the Dropbox under Final Project in Attached Files. You'll see that there's a final project attached file there too. So you've got it in a couple places, not just on this and on the website, but also in Dropbox, so you can read the document. So let's go over it a little bit for our final project. So again, weighted 20%. Let's talk about our overview. For the purpose of this term project, you will assume that a local real estate agent has contracted you and an optional partner. And what this means is you can work with one other person, right, on this one. So it could be a group project. You could work on it alone. If you work on it as a group project, you need to let me know who your partner is, right? Or else, if you don't let me know, they're going to get 0 when you submit, right? An optional partner to develop, his public website consisting of at least 9 pages. So let's take a look. So in the concept planning phase, we talked about concept and planning phase. I need you to make a couple things. I need you to make a sitemap. We talked about this last day, right? A mind map that outlines your page organization, right? So that's one thing you need to do. Second thing is I need you to put together some wireframes, right, for your pages from a planning perspective to show me how to, how your pages are going to look, right? I don't need you to make the site mobile, okay? It's not required for it to be fully responsive or anything like that. Remember, we've only scratched the surface of responsive design. I don't expect you to do that. I do expect those wireframes for your site. If you do make it responsive, and if you do decide to go there, that would be something that you would gain a bonus for. It's a bonus work. I'm not going to do it so that you're required to do it. And that same thing is if you do make it responsive, then you should be required to make it so that it's so the wireframes there's 2 wireframes per page. One that shows you, or 3 actually. One that shows you the actual wireframe for what it looks like on desktop, and there's one for tablet and one for mobile. That's a lot of work. That's why I'm making it a bonus. I'm not asking you to do that. I just need one wireframe for every template, right? Then the build phase. So you're going to build out your pages. So your home page, it shows the agent's picture, right, and other information that reflects his professional profile, his mission statement, feedback form, former customers, all that kind of stuff. That's one page. The other one is 5 property listing pages, and you want to describe in detail his listings. And basically, he wants a separate page document for each individual property, showing pictures of the property and additional information, price, address, lot size, number of types of rooms, all that kind of stuff. We're going to go over where you can find this information in a second, right? Here's a switchboard page. All right. He also wants a web page showing all the properties as thumbnail pictures with a brief description of the property, price information, and hyperlink to the detailed page for each property, right? And finally, a contact form. Hey, we just did a contact form pretty much last day, right? A contact form that gives you an HTML page containing a form that can be completed by the visitor, contains fields for the visitor's first name, last name, phone, email, blah, 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 and an additional comments text area. And then the information on the form is submitted by email to the agent's email address. One page, right? Now remember that this functionality here on the back end can't work, right? Like there is no back end for you guys to make it email everything to his website, to his email. So from a contact form, we're going to mimic. It's going to look like it's emailing, but not really emailing. The only thing I need you to do is make the form so it looks nice. It has all the proper form elements and all that kind of stuff, just like you did right now for your form, the form you made just now. Sitemap and credits page. This is I want you to, when you're from your sitemap, the sitemap itself, and you just did it. You just did the sitemap out here. You actually roughed it out in a document. This is the document that I need, right? Well, you're going to take that information and create your own sitemap. Right, this for item number 7. That's one of your requirements. I'm asking you to put that together. It's a credits page, and it's an HTML page containing a sitemap with links to all the pages in the agent's website and a list of websites that have been used for graphics and properties information. So this is going to be your proof of where you got your stuff. Some of it's going to come from MLS, guaranteed, right? We're going to go to MLS in a second. The general page layout has to be implemented using responsive web design principles. And when I say responsive web design principles, I don't mean that I want you to make anything beyond what we're doing. I don't expect, I mean, I've given you responsive templates, is what I'm saying. Use them, right? I'm not going to tell you to that it needs to be responsive from a wireframe. So I don't need you to plan it to be responsive. I just need you to have some basic principles. So if I move the page up and down, it's going to be responsive. Is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. There's no way. You just can't learn responsive design in 2 days. I've only talked about it twice, right? So it doesn't make any sense. You should know about it for your exam. If I ask you questions about responsive design and what it means and all that kind of stuff, some basic questions, you should understand and know what I'm talking about, right? If you don't understand what I'm talking about, you should read about it or watch the videos. All the styling must be used as an attached style sheet, so and as opposed to embedded styles. We don't want those kind of things. So if you're using Expression Web or anything like that and you use embedded styles, for whatever reason, you'll lose marks. Right? Please don't do that. All the pages have to share a common look and feel, achieved through consistent placement of graphics and navigation through the share of common color scheme. I agree with this. So if it doesn't, all the pages look completely whacked and different, that's like not good, right? It has to look kind of, the same. Almost like your whole site has a feel, right? And item number 11 is collect yourself well, this is her wording. Collect all the information you require, right? Graphics and pictures by researching free resources on the web. There's some we'll talk about where you can get these things from. And then finally, the deployment phase. This is when we deploy, right? Upload the project to your folder on the student web server and provide a final project link to it from your index page. The project is due on Friday, August 14th at midnight. Okay? Submitting your work, 2 ways to submit, or you should use both ways. I need you to a zip archive of your completed project file submitted on eCentennial Dropbox, and or a link, if you don't want to do that, to your project files on GitHub. If you want to learn how to do GitHub, you need to learn how to do that on your own. But a link to GitHub is fine, where you have a repository, or even some other Dropbox, if you use Dropbox, Google Drive, something where your files exist. That would be good as well, as opposed to actual project files in a zip archive. And then finally, your site must be deployed live on studentweb.sendcall.ca, and I have to have the link. This is the same for assignment number 4. So if you give me assignment number 4, if you say it's done, Professor, I finished it, but I don't have the link to it, I can't mark it, right? So I need the link for assignment number 4. I need the link for project number, for this project here. And I need information, I need your site files in your Dropbox. This thing is worth 20%, right? So this is not a small 5% assignment like we've been doing so far. So far, assignment number 1, assignment number 2, 3, and 4, they're all worth about 5% if I'm not wrong, right? Now that means that this project here, this final project, is worth all the other projects put together, right? So if you mess this one up, it means like you can mess up all the other ones, right? If you think about it. It's almost like, even if you did 100%, I don't know if anyone did 100% on all their assignments. We'll see about assignment 4. Well, let's say you did 100% on all 4 assignments and you get 20%. This one's worth 20%. So if you mess this one up, forget the other ones. It doesn't matter. You just basically messed everything. Your term is messed. So please don't mess it up. And that's why I've allowed you to also work with somebody else. One other person. Optional partner means one person, right, when you work with somebody. And why? Because this is a lot of work. You have, honestly, if you do this right and if you plan this properly, we're looking at, right now, we're week 11. Right? You know, you want to put things together for week 14. That means you have this week. Well, not really, because we're at the end of week 11, right? You have week 12 next week, week 13 the week after. You have a little bit of review, and then your exams are coming in week 14, and you also have all this to do by the end of the week. That's a lot of work. Plus, you have other stuff going on, right? So that's why I'm saying I would highly recommend you partner with somebody on this one. Give yourselves equal tasks. Don't do the work for somebody else. Let them do their own work. And that might mean something like this. Maybe one person's going to work on, or maybe you get together and you both work on the style of the website. Talk about your wireframes. Maybe work those wireframes together. Put them together, you know, your ideas should flow the same way. And then talk about your site colors. We talked about a couple links last week or last day about your site colors. So remember, I gave you this link. We talked about this last week. So if I go to fonts and colors, and if I go to the Adobe color wheel here, color.adobe.com, you can choose your site colors. You can say, you know what, my site colors are going to be, you know, some kind of shades of all my color of maybe blue. I want more of a bluish site or whatever, something that makes sense. You know, what do you think, partner? They can talk to you about what they think about stuff. You know, they want certain site colors to happen. And then if you notice, the site colors give you all your RGB values down here and your hex values. So there's some tools out there that I've already given you to kind of select your colors and style, fonts, all that stuff you and your partner have to just talk about, right? Now, you can also decide, maybe you think everybody, you hate working with people. You're a loner. You want to work on your own. And that's perfectly fine too, because some people don't want to do that. They don't want to work with other people. I'm not going to force you at this stage to work with somebody else. And if I'm not wrong, this project originally was to do on your own, right? But to me, this is a lot of work to do over the next couple weeks, right? And you might think this is nothing. It's only 5 pages, Tom. It's, you know, maybe or whatever, 10 pages. Who cares? To me, this is a lot of work. And if you don't know HTML5 and CSS3, and maybe you've been working with somebody else, I'm putting it out there for assignment number 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4, right? And you don't get this one done on the exam, when we do our final exam, you'll be in trouble, right? Because I'll give you a time limit. You only have 2 hours to produce something, right? That would be bad if you don't know how to do something like that, right? So please practice. Please work with somebody else. on this thing and try and put together some stuff. I highly recommend it. We're going to talk about other technologies that you can use to make your site look nicer today. One thing I'd ask you not to use for your final site, right, is I'd ask you not to use frameworks like Bootstrap or Foundation or anything else. I don't want you to use any of those frameworks. No frameworks, okay? And the reason for that is because it's got to be your own CSS. This course is not about using other people's frameworks or JavaScript libraries or anything like that. It's just I want you to make it your own, okay? And the reason for this is because if I was to allow you to use frameworks, it takes away half the work here, right? So, and also you don't appreciate it when you use someone else's frameworks. You're like, wow, it's easy. I don't even know anything, and I produce a website, right? Remember, we're software. You're software engineering students, right? So to me, you need to know how to program. You need to know how to code. You need to know how to code both HTML5 and CSS3. Eventually, you'll learn JavaScript and other technologies. But if you don't know this stuff now, when we move on to the next course, you're going to be in trouble, right? That it's just so much to learn, right? So please. Work on this stuff. It's due, again, August 14th. But it doesn't mean that you can work on this the last week. There's a lot of work to do here, and I would start almost immediately, especially in the planning process and everything else we talked about earlier. Next week, what I'm going to be doing is, along with some of the other technologies we're going to be talking about, I'm going to start off by asking you where you are with your plan, right? So I'm going to talk about who is your partner. We're going to talk about that. I want to see your sketches next week, your wireframe sketches and all that stuff. If I don't see these things, guys, it's not going to be good, right? I want to see these things because if I don't see your wireframes, if I don't see your plans, if I don't see your mind maps or site maps, this is a bad start. So please, next week, start off at least with that in the beginning of the week with your partner. Get together. I know the difficult thing is to get together with somebody else because everyone's got different schedules. They have a different life, all that kind of stuff on the back end. And again, if you really want to do this on your own, you can. But to me, this seems to me a lot of work for 2 weeks, right? Basically, that's all you really have. Any questions around project? The final project that's due at the last day of class, August 14th at midnight. Again, there will be no extensions because it's the last day. Not because I want to be mean to you. There just isn't time, right? So there isn't time for us to do any extra extensions. So that'll be the day that it's due. Okay, so that's this. But let's talk about a couple of tools we talked about last time. Just to review, I'm just going to get rid of this for a second. There's a couple of tools that I discussed last day. Just to review them, like I said, one of them, and again we talked about some wireframe tools and some mind mapping, site mapping. The mind mapping tool that I used last day was this Bubble Us mind map. I suggest you start this, create a mind map for yourself, some kind of site map. If you don't have other kind of software, you can certainly use other kind of things. You could even draw this, and I would accept this as well. Let's say you're not great at tools, right? It's just you're not great, but you're great at drawing, and you want to draw it on the board, right? Take a goddamn picture, right? I'm okay with it. It doesn't have to be submitted to me, right, in the beginning in your document. Remember, there's going to be a document that I want you to come up with, 2 documents, a sitemap and a wireframe. Sometimes in the past, what we would do when we would go to clients is I would wireframe stuff up by hand, draw it out. So this is where I want this. This is where we're going to put this. I would like it in a tool, like some kind of tool that I'm showing you. But worst case scenario, you can always draw it out and take a picture. It'd be acceptable for me. Please don't copy from somebody else. I will know, right? It happens every semester where there's somebody who's going to copy something from somebody else, and then it just doesn't make any sense to me. If you do this, I know people are busy and you're working and everything else and get other courses, but you need to do your own work. The other one we talked about for wireframes is this mockups. This is probably one of the ones I showed you guys with mockups.com, right? Use something to do your wireframes, and start early. Start plotting things out. Kind of look at what your page is going to look like ahead of time, as opposed to starting to code. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to code first and then do your wireframes. I know it's a habit of students, and I talked about this last time, but that would be very bad. And why? Because you're not really practicing any. There's no best practice there. You're just doing it so you can satisfy my requirements for the project. Okay, yes, you might get your marks, but it doesn't teach you anything, right? The process is supposed to teach you how to do things right, and it's not just for this. Let's say in the future you're doing stuff for C#, right? You're doing another course, C#. You're programming in C++. You're programming in Java. You're programming in language X, whatever that language is. It doesn't matter. And if you make a UI, any kind of user interface, you should be making wireframes before you program one piece of code. Why? It's a waste of your time, guys. You don't want to be using trial and error. You want to trial and error with your wireframes. You want to try and move things around and think about things and be creative on your wireframe side, right? You don't want to do that when you're coding. That's just a waste of your time. It takes way longer, and you can make a lot more mistakes. And besides, you'll know if it doesn't work. If you try and put something together and it's not working the way you want, there's a reason, right? Okay, so any questions around that? Again, really what we're talking about is, I'm just going to pull up Visual Studio here. We're talking about your project. And remember, just as a reminder, assignment 4, again, is due tonight at midnight. Please don't be late with this one. And I need 2 things. I need you to use your Dropbox, right? Submit on your Dropbox in eCentennial. Please do that, right? I know there's some submissions. There's not a lot of them. Maybe you didn't submit on Dropbox last time with Professor Filati. For me, I'm asking you to do it. Why? I can't mark you and stuff I don't see, number one, and I don't know what your links are. I don't know. I'm not going to search through Student Web to find your link for your site. I don't know. I don't have that information. She didn't give it to me, right? So I need you to give it to me, right? So please submit that information. What's the link to your website? If you wiped away your other website by accident, I'm going to talk about this one too. Let's say, for example, somebody told you that you can publish through this thing. Oh, that would be me. I told you. I told you to publish through a Visual Studio. And you didn't stop yourself and you followed the video and all of a sudden, boom, your website's gone. The other stuff that you had there, your indexed.html. I don't care about it. All I care about is my stuff. Assignment number 4, I want that one. And I want for your final, your project number, your final project, right? So if I have those 2 things at the end, I'm good. I don't need your other files. I don't need to see assignment number 1, 2, and 3 and all the other stuff you did, right? I don't need that stuff, right? It would be nice if you had that stuff there, and if you want to rebuild your page and make it your own, it doesn't have to be the way it was before. This is a great opportunity. What Professor Filati's given you is a chance to make up a portfolio page for you for while you're here at Centennial, right? You want to put together a portfolio site that has all your project files and some examples of your work and all that kind of stuff, and something that you keep rolling as you move into other courses at Centennial. Now, if you wiped it away by accident, my fault, right? Because I told you to do something and you didn't. You pulled the trigger, right? And then now your website's you killed your website, right? You shot the website with your publishing, right? It's dead, right? That's okay. All I care for is assignment number 4, and then finally your project, right? And then of course we're also going to do our the other piece we're going to do is our practical work that we're going to do for our final test. There'll be that as well, right? Because the practical, you'll be building something and deploying something for your final test, all right? Your practical. There are no options to walk in and out of your practical stuff, eh? And you can't, if you don't make your practical stuff work, if you don't attend your exam, your final test, you get nothing. I can't give you marks for something you didn't do. You got to be present on that day for you to make it happen. You got to be present for that day for your theoretical stuff that you're going to do too. All right, so just warning you. Also, week 13, so the week before, so a couple weeks from now. Right now we're sitting at week 11, so 2 Fridays from now, right? I'm going to be hosting a review for your exam, right? So please attend on the Friday, right? Or attend on the Wednesday if you're a Wednesday person, right? That week, we're going to be doing on day 2 of that week, I'm going to be doing a review of everything you need to know for your exam. If you're not there that day, and maybe at least watch the video, worst case scenario, but this is a good chance to look at your stuff. Also, I want to be reviewing every step of the way. I want to look at your projects, right? So if I don't see you in class, and we haven't talked about stuff, and I didn't, if you want feedback from me to get the highest marks possible, show me your darn project, right? Throughout the time that we're together, you have a couple of weeks. If you don't show up, or if you decide to do something else during these 2 weeks, it's your bad. Okay, I don't want to keep saying too much more about that. I don't want to bore the crap out of you too much, right? But I got to kind of talk about the norms for this one. Okay, so that's it. I'm just going to stop this video. This is number 3. and then we'll go to number 4 with web fonts and icon fonts.